In February 1848, tragedy was brought upon the Alsop family in the form of the death of 5-year-old Catherine Brinkerhoff. Catherine died at the quarantine ground on Staten Island. This was only 3 months after her mother, Catherine Maria Alsop, had died at the quarantine grounds on November 4, 1847, at the age of 30. Her funeral was held at the quarantine grounds. Both were victims of the yellow fever pandemic that raged in New York in 1848. 5-year-old Catherine was the granddaughter of Thomas Alsop, who is mentioned in the notice, and all of his family and friends are invited to the funeral at 201 5th Street. One cannot help, like millions of people before us, but wonder how a man could grieve his 5-year-old granddaughter, as he must have done, but sold other children at least as young as 16 years old. And if he speculated in people like he did in land, Alsop undoubtedly sold children as young as his deceased granddaughter and younger. For a usual example, there is an Evening Post article from March 4, 1805, where a James Taylor from 104 Maiden Lane advertises a 19-year-old black woman for sale, and her child about 1 month old. But it had been 42 years since Thomas Alsop had sold or pursued people through the papers. And while civil war would not rid the country of slavery for another decade plus, slavery was on its way out. In New York State, residents had been lawfully forbidden slavery for 21 years, with some loopholes, and people who had escaped slavery, like Frederick Douglass, were publishing their narratives and telling their stories anywhere they would be heard and lots of places they would not be.